Northern News Now.
A moment of silence in Minneapolis this morning. Here's a look at the gathering around 10 o'clock today at the scene of the deadly shooting where an ICE agent shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Good Wednesday. That moment of silence, something Minnesota's governor called on all Americans to partake in as he declared today a day of unity. Good afternoon. I'm Briggs LaSavage. Thanks for joining us. That moment of silence comes as this afternoon, Minnesota lawmakers continue demanding that the state be involved in the shooting investigation. These were the moments that Renee Good's vehicle was stopped in front of the vehicles of ICE agents Wednesday, and ultimately the ICE agent, who we now know to be Jonathan Ross, fires his weapon, killing her. And just moments ago, Attorney General Keith Ellison spoke about Renee Good, saying she lost her life trying to help vulnerable neighbors in her community.
She died trying to be a legal assistant to legal observer to look out for the interests of the most vulnerable members of our community.
And as for what comes next for the investigation, the FBI has taken control over the case, kicking out the BCA from the investigation. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty spoke just within the last hour, saying the community deserves a fair investigation.
Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency.
And with the goal of that thorough investigation, Attorney Moriarty announced that her office is collecting evidence now. She said the FBI already took evidence from the scene, including Good's car, shell casings, and witness testimony. Moriarty's office in Hennepin County is now asking anyone with evidence, including videos or testimony, to share that with them. And according to Moriarty, that evidence will then be passed along to the BCA. And as we reported yesterday, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem told reporters that the state doesn't have jurisdiction over this investigation, which is why the FBI will be leading it. But this afternoon, more elected leaders, including Minnesota House DFL floor leader Jamie Long, said that there is precedent for sharing information between the state and the feds on cases like this, and that timing will be vital.
There have been instances in the past where the FBI has shared information weeks after or even months after. It would be much better if the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension were able to be involved right now. There is time-sensitive evidence. There are memory lapses that happen if you aren't able to interview witnesses right away.
And Minnesota's 2 U.S. senators are also calling on the feds to reverse their decision and work with the state's BCA on the shooting investigation. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi today. They expressed their concerns with the FBI being the only agency on the investigation, adding that it raises questions about the administration's objectivity, particularly after officials have made statements that the senators say conflict with the video of the shooting. The Democrats wrote that the state and feds have worked together on Hortman's assassination and the Annunciation School shooting last year, and the state shouldn't be cut out now. And while he didn't comment on federal versus state involvement exactly this morning, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican, told CNN a full investigation into the shooting is needed.
That's the appropriate thing. That will happen. But I think you'll verify what's on the video. It appears to us that the officer involved was operating in self-defense. He made a snap judgment, as they do. He had been drugged behind a vehicle already, we now know, this particular officer, and he felt that his life and the life of his fellow officers and potentially bystanders was in danger. And so we'll have to see.
And you just heard Speaker Johnson mention there that the ICE agent had been dragged by a vehicle before. We learned more about that incident yesterday. Federal documents show the agent, Jonathan Ross, who shot Renee Good, was seriously injured during that previous incident in Bloomington, Minnesota last June. Ross reportedly got his arm stuck in the window of a vehicle as the driver was fleeing arrest on an immigration violation. Ross was dragged the length of a football field in 12 seconds and was hospitalized with large cuts across his body. During that incident, he fired his taser, which struck the driver, but it did not incapacitate him. Ross was also taken to the hospital after Wednesday's shooting, but is now home with his family.